Here's what happened today. They could make Lawrence of Arabia today digitally by combining digital effects with live action effects. But in a sense, that's like going to Victoria Falls. And instead of taking the National Geographic Hasselblads to photograph the falls, you say, we don't have to send a photographer to Victoria Falls. Let's digitize Victoria Falls. They'll never tell the difference. Well, people can tell the difference. They know a real wave from a digital wave, a real twister from a digital twister. People know this. And I think that Lawrence today would probably cost about $285 million to make in today's money. And to do it digitally would be a tremendous sin, because what makes that film, unlike any film that can be made again, is that it was done naturally with the elements of light and sound and maybe the greatest screenplay ever written for the motion picture medium.
And this is why you can't replicate movies, because movies are a product of their time. Even when the same director and the same actor do a sequel of a movie, it can be very difficult to get it right. This is because even the same people are not the same people after a certain amount of time. And here's the problem. Studios want replicated success. They need to have a system. They spend money on what they think it might be a success based on previous results.
Studio executives generally are not the most sophisticated people in the world. And you will find that if you go to Hollywood. I hope you don't, because you don't want to be oppressed by people who are not as smart as you are. And I'm dumb.
They're as good as a broken clock. I mean, they're right twice a day. Paramount did Top Gun Maverick. So, they are right twice a day.
But a lot of time this doesn't work, because a good movie is in a universe of its own. It's the vision of a director re-elaborating multiple art forms on film.
The whole thing in Star Wars was to take psychological ideas from social issues, political issues, spiritual issues, and condense them down into an easy-to-tell story of those stories. We call it space opera, but people don't realize it's actually a soap opera. And it's all about family problems, and it's not about spaceships.
It's about getting the core of the story. Move one piece and a castle of cards will crumble. Studios a lot of time make good stories without a strong core. But this is not something new. It has always been pretty much like this. If you take a look at The Magnificent Seven, you'll immediately see that even if it's a fine movie, it lacks the deeper core of Seven Samurai. But the biggest problem comes when emotional engagement is replaced with big scenes and big effects.
Even the people in that engine room not actually understanding what made the first one special.
Yep.
It wasn't the pomp, it wasn't the circumstance, it wasn't the action, it was the moral core.
That's why to make a good movie, you need a good director that has his vision on how to tell a good story. One that will hold its ground against studio notes, because he knows that those will dilute the power of the story he's trying to make.
But I had different ideas about how to do it than George and even John. Number one, I very much wanted to make it even more like Heart of Darkness, and in fact, if anything, make it be a kind of transliteration of Heart of Darkness to the Vietnam setting, which was not really what they wanted to do. The end of the original Milieu script was quite different. It didn't really end in the same way as, or without any of the kind of philosophy of Heart of Darkness, but rather ended in a giant battle in which the Willard character joins with Kurtz, and together they hold off the big John Wayne battle scene.
And it's not like Apocalypse Now doesn't have a lot of big effects and big scenes. The point is, they have purpose in the story, and they are not solely for the spectacle.